Hello everybody, and welcome to All the Mod 7 to the Sky. In last episode we built all of this Britannia automation, and we also checked out the Entropinium for the first time. I hardly ever use this to generate mana. I also automated the Runic Altars and the Terrestrial Agglomeration Plate, as well as Living Rock and Living Logs. Today's episode though, I would like to sort out some of the autocrafting stuff. There is a few things which we're missing the ability to autocraft, more specifically Mekanism alloys. To make the higher tier machines and machine upgrades, we're going to need automated infused alloy and automated reinforced and atomic alloy. So we have a few things to set up, but before I can set up all of them, I should expand the base so that I can actually house all of these new machines. Well, some of these sections are looking definitely a little bit better. This is going to be the first machine hall which we're going to have, and this is also serving as a hallway to connect certain parts of the base together. So I will have to actually walk through here and see all of the machines. On a side note, you can make these mega torches which will prevent hostile mobs from spawning in a large radius. So these are actually quite useful and rather cheap considering they prevent hostile mob spawning. Yeah, so the first two machines, which I'm going to end up automating, is going to be these metallurgic infusers. This way we'll be able to produce all of these alloys and anything which consumes redstone in the metallurgic infuser. All of these recipes I've taught them so that we can have the most parallel processing for these, which is 9 items turned into the 9 target items. Doing this so that I don't have to change these patterns in the future. All of these recipes are going to be taught like this. So I will have 8 iron, and enriched redstone will produce 8 infused alloys. This means for the recipe it's going to use up all 8 of the millibuckets of redstone, or all 80 millibuckets of redstone, because enriched alloys, they give you 80 millibuckets instead of 10. So I just need to teach all of these recipes to be like this. These circuits have to be 4 osmium ingots into 4 basic control circuits, since these use 20 millibuckets of redstone instead of the standard 10 millibuckets. The same for teaching this rose quartz. If I want to make it this recipe, I only need 1 enriched redstone for 1 piece of nether quartz to make the rose quartz. And I think I'm going to dedicate one side of this to be all Mekanism machines. So I'll have these metallurgic infusers placed there. I'll upgrade these also to the basic factories. And the automation for these has to be slightly different than these machines, because we're handling the infusion item. And I'm also going to use these barrels so that we are occupying a full block, so you won't see a gap in between this wall. So for the automation on this, I'm going to have input on the top. The back one is going to be input for the extra, which will be the infusion type, this slot here. Then I'll just have this output to the bottom. I will also set auto eject to be enabled. I will have these outputting straight into this barrel on the bottom. And wow, that thunder was perfect timing. And the filters which I'm going to set up, the enriched redstone, this one's going to be filtered on the back of this machine. So only enriched redstone will go into this bag, which will make sure that it goes into the infusion slot. Then the top, I will just set for all of the input items for these. So iron, osmium, and rose quartz. These will only be filtered to go into the top of this machine. Then the patterns can go in the pattern provider. I will do not push crafting ingredients if inventory contains a pattern input. So if this one gets stuck, it won't insert anymore. Wow, that thunder is really it's thundering whenever I want to speak. There it goes again. I've actually run out of space, so I'm going to have to run power on the front of it. Not the greatest for looks, but it's the best I can do, so I'm just gonna have to suck it up. I'm ready to start requesting some infused alloys. These advanced tiers will have to craft the infused alloys and to craft the advanced control circuits. Okay, happy to see that this is sent the items. I'm happy to see that this first automation now works. So I just need to set this up for the other two more I have. This is also where the fun of energy consumption is going to increase. Crafting these speed upgrades and energy upgrades is going to increase the power consumption by a lot. However, I think that it's absolutely worth it because the machines are going to run a lot quicker. And just like that, I should be able to request the highest tier factories, the ultimate tier installers. Watch it. All three crafting at once. That's brilliant. You gotta love automation like this. This is the standard setup which I use when automating the metallurgic infusers. I spent way too much time trying to optimize it years ago, and this is the bestest one which I can do. Ultimate factories, 9 items at once. Can we do a little test? I request 2 stacks of upgrades. Yeah, look at it all. Look at all of these items. It does make me feel good when automation like this actually works properly. This also means that we can upgrade TNT production over in this area simply by upgrading these to the elite tiers, then to the ultimate, then speed and energy upgrades. Now they should be able to chug through a lot of TNT. With all of these machine upgrades, which I'm currently crafting, is going to become increased power consumption. And currently this energy cube which we have can only output 100,000 RF per tick and only stores 102 million RF, which isn't that much in the sense of Mekanism. So I'm going to go about upgrading this. And to do so, we are going to be crafting up an Induction Maxtrix from Mekanism. This thing can store an incredible amount of RF, and the output is completely customizable to your use. But to begin crafting it, we are going to need to obtain lithium, and there are 2 ways to do it. One way is crafting up a thermal evaporation tower from Mekanism. That's the correct way to do it technically, except I don't want to do it that way. Instead, I'm going to use a mod called Alchemy to be able to craft up this lithium. Yeah, the recipe for carbon in the fission reactor controller can turn 1 carbon into 2 lithium, which is going to be very useful. And this is how we're going to be producing mass amounts of lithium. Before we can actually get this running though, to craft this reactor glass, I'm going to need to produce silicon dioxide and lead oxide, which is going to need the combiner from Alchemistry. The recipe which I'm going to use to produce silicon dioxide is going to be gravel. The lead oxide is going to be another recipe in the combiner. I'm also going to need to make a chemical dissolver. This will allow us to produce some of the elemental chemicals. Ah, lovely. Silicon dioxide. Produce the oxygen. I'm going to make it in the dissolver with the silicon dioxide. And the lead is going to be just placing a lead ingot in the chemical dissolver. Let's give this a go then. If I request reactor glass, let's request 10. Gravel's going into this dissolver. Lead is also going in. Lead oxide is being produced in the combiner. Then reactor glass is also being produced. Lovely. While we're waiting for this reactor glass to craft, shall we claim all of the rewards from the quest? I've been waiting for a little while to do this. We'll click the collect all rewards up here. That's a fair amount of stuff. It has dropped on the ground. This is also the multi-block design of the fission reactor. For this to actually be built, we need at least 62 reactor casings, which we already have. So I need to request 26 more reactor glass to be able to build this multi-block. Go start crafting. Another thing which we're going to need is these fission reactor cores, but these require yttrium. To get yttrium, it looks like it's chiseled deep slate or cobbled deep slate with a low % chance to actually obtain it. So I reckon that this is the time to set up a passive dissolver to produce yttrium for us. Remember that the deep slate which I have is on passive, so we don't need to worry about this. And since the deep slate, this type of deep slate we actually use for building, I will be using the cobbled deep slate to produce this yttrium. This is nice and simple automation. All we have is an interface keeping stock of cobbled deep slate, extracting it and sending it into the dissolver. Then the dissolver is extracting any products which it produces into a storage controller, which just has an array of 5 oak drawers with a total of 10 items being stored. This is going to take a while to actually get enough yttrium for all this. So, well, for you, it's going to take a split second. For me, it's probably going to take a little while. And after a little bit of time just letting the server run, I now have enough yttrium to craft one of these fission cores, or should I say 3 of these. 3 are required to actually build this reactor. And just like that, the fission cores are crafted. And I have all of the materials in my inventory to build this. I have the plan here. So it's going to go in this location. And I'm planning to have more than one of them. So let's build it. And it's turned on. Here it is, fission controller. I'm going to be using a logistical sorter to take the items out of this barrel. These will then go into the reactor input. The output just needs to be fed back into this pattern provider. For the logistical sorter, I'm going to say single items on, so it'll only send 1 item at a time. Then I want eject all, so it will eject anything regardless of the filters. And round robin will allow this to switch between inventories, so we can have them running in parallel. And a flux point to give this power. Lovely. I'm going to give this a try by crafting up 6 more fission cores so that I can build 3 more reactors. The fission reactor will allow us to produce yttrium by sending platinum through it. Good. This is what I want to see. And the logistical sorter is doing its job. Lovely. We're getting yttrium. This fission reactor is so cool. Being able to split elements into lighter elements. And just like that, 3 fission reactors, which now means that we can craft up at least one of these ultimate induction cells, which store 1 trillion RF, which is a lot more than that 100 million in the ultimate energy cube. Let's see this work. This is quite fun to watch all of these. It's handling all of these items quite nicely. While I'm waiting for the induction cells to craft, I'm going to actually expand the area to build this induction matrix. And while building this part of the base, there is something called a copy-paste gadget from Building Gadgets. This is made by a lovely YouTuber named Dial20, and it is a really nice mod. If I copy this by using shift right click for the first position, then right click for the second position, it will copy this part of the base. So this is a wall. Then if I switch it to paste mode, then we can rotate this. I should be able to just copy and paste the whole thing. Lovely. So it'll save me having to build this. It makes building that tiny bit easier, and we now have a completed room. And this might be a little bit excessive, but the plan for this induction cell is going to be a 7x7 internal. So it's going to fit within this space, which I'm just mining out the boundary of it. Listen to that hum. About 3 or 4 machines running in this area at once. Yep, so this is the multi-block. At the moment, it currently can't store anything because I don't have the induction cells or the providers, but we've at least built this, and this is a 7x7 external, which is also 5 high for anyone wanting to use the same design as this. For the IO for this, I'm going to have an input. I'm going to change this to a new network. I usually have the name of the network, then label it as generators. And let's give it a different color. Let's do yellow. So Skynet generators is going to be the yellow channel. And this is going to be the input for this induction cell. The output is going to be to the main Skynet. Oh, and if you're wondering the name for that, I think that's a suiting name for wireless power transfer. I wonder how many of you can actually guess what movie that is from. Crafting has nearly finished. Ah, finally. Ultimate induction cell, 1.6 trillion RF capacity. We are also going to need a provider. Now, we definitely don't need this one just yet, so I'm going to settle with an advanced one and an advanced induction provider later. We now have what we need to set this up. To actually connect this to this reactor, I've just run a networking cable all the way under the base, all the way to this induction cell. So we can now pick up the ultimate energy cube. We don't need this anymore. The flux plug can be placed right next to the reactor, and I want to set this to the Skynet generators channel. Then if we restart the computer program and start, we also need to place these inside this induction casing. It doesn't matter where you place them in here. I'm just going to place them like that. Now we can store 1.6 trillion RF, and I'm happy to see that this is charging. And it's going to take a little bit of time. Yeah, it's not even got up to 1% yet. It's going to take a little while to charge it, but that means that it's completely done. So we now have the energy throughput for all of these machines, which I'm going to be running. Since I'm going to be running a lot of machines, And in here, we can also see the energy output. You can also see the energy input. Right, energy is now fixed. We have loads of energy storage and energy throughput. Oh, on a side note, you actually do need to wrench these to the output mode. Red is output, green is input. Now we should be able to see on the inside how much we're outputting. Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this episode. I hope you have all thoroughly enjoyed what I've been up to, especially the alchemy and the induction matrix. I hope you have a lovely Christmas, because it is going to be Christmas in 4 days as the time of me editing and finishing the video. So hope you have a lovely Christmas, hope you have a lovely new year, and hope to see you all again some other time.